Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building materials. Today, my co-host is Ryan Bell. Mr. Bell, got some exciting things to tell us today.
Nothing today. I've got nothing today. It's Friday. It's been a long week.
It has been a long week. All week I kept thinking we were one day ahead. I kept thinking, surely it's Thursday and it was only Wednesday, and now I'm just all messed up. But I got to tell you, though, I have to apologize to anyone who's watching this on YouTube. God bless those of you who are just listening to this show right now, because for some reason today I look like the pointy-haired boss from Dilbert. I just got these like horns of, I guess I need a haircut. Anyway, hey, speaking of personal problems, I did go to the doctor the other day, Ryan, and
oh, really?
I told him that after we talked things through, we figured out, because it's kind of this recurring nightmare I have, we figured out that I have a fear of giants. Turns out that's a real thing. It's called fee-fi phobia.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
Let's jump into things. I'm excited about today's show. Okay. Oh, one thing too, we are doing challenge words. So both Ryan and I and our guest, who is yet a mystery, and he's always mystery. He's just a mysterious guy. No, not really. Anyway, we all have a challenge word that we're challenged to work into the conversation as seamlessly as possible. So you, the listening audience, can be listening to see if you hear our challenge words. At the end of the show, we will reveal what our challenge words and whether we were successful. Anyway, let's get rolling. So we've all seen it before. Companies out there that excel with happy customers, happy team members, profitability, all that good stuff. And then there are companies that you run into that really have the right building blocks, and they're almost there, but not quite. Well, today's guest is Chad Prinkey, a consultant to construction contractors who helps those almost there companies get over the hump and reach levels of success they always dreamed of, working with them through skills such as better communication, enhanced problem solving, and clear priorities. Based in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, that area, of course, he works nationally, but Chad's company is Well Built Construction Consulting. And that is exactly what they do. Help construction contractors build their own businesses in ways that create success, and I'm got a hunch, a little bit of fun along the way. Chad, welcome to Construction Disruption. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Todd and Ryan, thank you so much for having me. It's I can already tell this is going to be fun.
Well, we try to make it that way. We try our best, that's for sure. So I know that your consulting firm focuses on mid-sized general contractors, construction managers, specialty contractors, developers. Can you share with us a little bit about your own background and how did that prepare you to play this role in helping these companies to greater levels of success?
Sure. So I'll start back in high school. So my brother is 7 years older than me. He started a residential remodeling company when he was in his early 20s. He was actually an award-winning mason through tech school, and then he went to construction management school, got a 2-year associate's, and came out at a very young age and inspired me by opening his own business. I thought that was bold and impressive, and he was like, hey, and I need a laborer. I was like, all right, here we go. So I actually worked in the field for him from the time I was 15 to the time I was 22, all the way through high school and college, and I learned to lay block poorly and brick poorly, and even do some rough carpentry and roofing poorly. And I'm really just not good at any of it. But I respect the heck out of it. And believe it or not, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun working with my brother. And we I watched him grow his business from this fledgling company into and it's still in operation today. It's been into 25, 26 years. running that business. And so while I loved the experience, what I also knew is that I wasn't cut out to work in the field, and my brother didn't have, a spot for me in that business, at that point. I got into sales. I was very quickly pulled into sales training, and sales training sounded like a really neat idea, but it was business to business, and I didn't know. I had to start with zero. I made $0.00 unless I sold something, right? So it was 100% commission gig, and I was like, where can I sell? The only place that seemed to make any sense to me was to construction companies, because that's the only gig I ever really kind of understood. I was extremely fortunate to bring in some awesome construction company clients. Like, just I had no business working with these amazing companies, but at the time, but they liked me, I liked them. We built phenomenal relationships, and I was really good. If I could just pat myself on the back in this area, I was really good at helping them to grow. And so helped, contractors that were 30 million to get to 100 million, and helped contractors that were 10 million to get to 50 million, and so on. And I a lot of those stories. Along that journey, what I also discovered is that growth comes with all kinds of problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt like these companies hired us. They hired me to deliver a result. And that result was not just growth, but it was also profitable growth. So I started becoming really obsessed with every aspect of delivering profitable growth, and then began my own journey of lots and lots of education, in associations, and every construction association, sitting through all their educational seminars, and learning that stuff, and reading just dozens and dozens of management books and leadership books, all just so that I could help these companies that were hiring me for profitable growth, to not just get the growth end of that equation. And then lastly, I'll share with you that in that experience, where I worked with a couple hundred companies, more than 200 now, contractors, that I found there were some who were just really playing the game at a totally different level. And those companies taught me as much or more than I could possibly teach them. And I've been able to use that in my efforts with helping all these companies that are trying to go someplace special. And so it's really this journey of understanding and passion for the industry, ability to help companies to grow. My skill set, definitely natural skill set, is in sales and business development, and that type of stuff. And then this learned skill set of leadership, management, organizational structure, organizational development, HR, yada yada yada. And then in the past 3 years since I started this company, I've surrounded myself with people way smarter than me.
I hear you. Well, that's a great story, and great way that you got where you are. I'm kind of curious, when you were doing the sales training early on, you weren't involved with Sandler by any chance, were you?
I was. Yeah, I was.
I figured, being there in Baltimore, there was a likely chance of that. And actually, I think it's been a very recent episode, may have been our last episode. We had Dave Mattson, who's the CEO of Sandler these days, on as our guest. And that was a really good conversation.
Yeah, so I was with Sandler for 12 years.
Okay.
Maybe 13 years, something like that. A Sandler affiliate company.
Mm-hmm.
And left and started this business, which is not a Sandler company. We focus just exclusively on the construction industry and so on. So that's I had built this book of business inside the Sandler business, and I was like, this isn't. Sandler's great, but it didn't cover all the different areas that I was covering.
Oh, absolutely right. It doesn't let you get as nuanced as you can be in what you're doing now. And
That's right.
Love that. So, but yeah, no, it's good. It's interesting though. So, love to hear a story or two, maybe of clients, situations where you have helped people really grow their businesses and achieve levels of success they'd always dreamed of. Maybe we're getting the cart before the horse, but a couple of success stories might lay the groundwork well for the rest of our conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've laid out there these growth examples, and those are a couple of good ones to just, kind of run with. One company in particular that was operationally very sound. They were very well prepared to handle growth. Very good reputation. They just really had no systematic way of going after the market. And that was a company that once I was in there helping them to really figure out their value proposition, really nail down their target client profile, and put the focus on growth, and then provide the team with the tools they needed to follow that plan in the form of education, in the form of training, in the form of practice and skill development. The next thing that company was able to launch. And this is these, and so that company was 300 employees when I started working with them, and today they're about 3,000 employees, and growing wildly.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what it looks like when you're ready. Like, it's the only thing we needed was the growth model, and we can do everything else. It's relatively rare, but that situation exists. And then on the other end of that spectrum, I could look at a company that was this is actually recent, that they had, the last thing they needed to figure out how to do was bring in more work. They had that machine finely tuned. The problem was when they put it into the machine and they put it into the business, the operational side of the equation, they were just consistently losing margin. So here we are, we're growing every year, and that was the situation. We're growing every year. Our profits are flat or declining, and it seems like as we grow, we're making less money. What do we need to do? And in that situation, we had to confront some hard truths about leadership structure and the people that were in those roles, and we also needed to implement operational processes that help them to be able to handle the growth. And so we pushed pause on growth, and we got that right. We said, okay, you're not ready to grow. The problem that you're experiencing is you keep on feeding things into a system that doesn't operate efficiently. So in that scenario, restructure, put some people in different places, brought in some new folks into some supporting roles, and got the machine rolling in the right direction. And in the past year, have been able to press play on growth and actually optimize profit along that journey, which has been really cool to watch. And that's a situation where a net profit on an annual basis might have been at a 2 or 3%, and today is operating at about a 12%.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's some significant change for them. And I am curious, though. I mean, your typical client, what is their attitude when they come to you? They look like they just ate a bunch of sour apples, and they just, are really not happy and not doing well? Or do you often find your better clients actually are doing pretty well already? They just need that little extra push to up themselves to a higher level.
So it varies, Todd. And I
Yeah.
think we have, so I would say our typical client is a pretty successful company. They're successful in a lot of different measures, but they also know, and they're frustrated by something that's keeping them from getting to whatever the next level is in their own mind. Usually they're having this realization that they're just not making enough money. It's a lot of work for not a lot of return.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of feeling. And I think a lot of people feel that way in the construction industry. Average net profits are really not exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take a look at the data that the CFMA puts out, you look at that, and if you're a software company, you look at that data and you're like, you have to double take. And you're like, I'm sorry, what are you even doing this for? Why
Is
would
this
you
just
be
a
in?
hobby?
Right, exactly. This is cute. What are you guys doing? And so I think there really are ways to play way above the average, and they want to push that over the line. Sometimes we do have people who are coming to us who are hurt. Things are not going right. They're worried. Those types of engagements. Everything and all it changes is really the type of work that we're going to do with them. That company that comes to us is really doing well. They just want to do better. There, as you can imagine, there's not as much urgency around the efforts that we're taking. We can be more strategic long term, put together 3-year plans, and start to make measured progress toward a thing. If you're not healthy today, if you're unwell, if you're sick as a business today, we do not try to focus you on your 3-year plan, man. Right? Like if you're sick today, we're like, let's get you, let's do some triage. Let's get you healthy. Let's stop the bleeding. And then we can start talking about the fun stuff. And I think that really is that duality that we focus on at Well Built, that our clients hire us for and love to keep us for, is that, we're always keeping our finger on the pulse of both of those things. How healthy are you today, so that we can focus on tomorrow? And if your today health is waning, that's where we need to place our focus, so that I oftentimes use this analogy of like, we it doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to renovate your bedroom when there's a fire in the basement. And I think a lot of consultants are like, we do vision.
Yeah. We're going to go through this path regardless.
Exactly. We have this step by step. You got to follow this step by step. Well, the step by step sounds cute, but like, I'm going to go out of business next week.
Yeah.
If we don't figure out cash flow. And so, we have the flexibility to hit people in both of those areas.
Well, I love that. And I think that's something good consultants do. I mean, part of that onboarding phase is figuring out where are we right now and what do we immediately have to take care of. Do you find a lot of your relationships are pretty long-term then, where you sort of become a long-term coach for that company? Or is it more, okay, we come in, we get the ship righted, or maybe if the ship's already right, we get you down this path. And then that's kind of the end of things for you.
So that varies too. But usually, again, I'll answer the usually question is, usually they're long-term engagements. Usually they have, so, when I was at Sandler, I was working with, when I left, about 40 some companies. And then I had a period of time where I couldn't work with those companies, which is very understandable. Hey, you sign those agreements and that's what you got. But I have all those companies back. And
wow.
And a lot of those have been with me now for 12, 14 years and stuff along those lines, because I'm our team and I am a part of their company. It's just a part of their organization. And I'll give a little bit on the other end of that spectrum. There are lots of people who also just hire us for engagements. And that's cool too. There's some of the largest general contractors in the world use us on a regular basis. We are not telling them how to run their business. Right? You know what I mean? They're bringing us in for this communication training, or they're bringing us in for this team building environment or whatever else. And so we do a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. I mean, we all know the importance of interpersonal relationships, whether that's with team members or with customers, clients. Tell me a little bit about, how does that impact a contractor's success? I think a lot of contractors, let's face it, they got really good at swinging a hammer, and then they got a nice enough truck, and, oh, I'm a contractor. And maybe that interpersonal stuff was never really something they gave a lot of thought to. Reflect a little bit about on the how you help companies get to better levels in terms of that.
Most of our work is with the commercial construction industry.
Sure.
Some into the industrial, some into residential, but largely into the commercial space. The commercial construction industry is what makes it not unique. There are some places that are like this, but the markings of it that are really, really important to understand is that it is an account-based project sale. And what that means is you have two sales that you need to secure. The first sale is the account. And when you sell the account, you don't make any money. Unlike insurance, where when you sell the account, you get their insurance business.
Right.
And that's the transaction. In the commercial construction industry, getting the account is really just getting an agreement that we seem like we're a good fit to work together. That's the account sale. Then there is the project sale, and you have to make each one of those independently. Because of that, you're doing business with the same people over and over again, and you have to prove it every time. So when you talk to me about the importance of interpersonal relationships, it really is, to me, right down to the core of the people who like you more, trust you more, and would rather have you on their jobs. In an account-based project sale, it's the difference between industry average 8% and 12% hit rates, and our client averages 35, 45% hit rates, on pursuits. I mean, it's huge. It's a massive swing. So that's externally. Internally, success with your people is essential. They're especially when you're in this mid-sized category. When you're a monster company and you lose somebody, it's like, you have a bunch of really great people that can backfill that spot. No big deal. When you're a 100 employee, electrical contractor, and your VP of operations loses heart and quits, it can be devastating to the business. And so you have to be able to maintain meaningful, powerful relationships with your people. Otherwise, you'll find yourself, constantly starting over. And I see a lot of that when we come in and get to know these businesses. Oftentimes, we'll find out the markings are like, we've been about the same size for X number of years. That's usually a good indicator that we're stuck. And when I start digging into the stuck, oftentimes they're not succeeding with their people. They're having turnover. They're getting there, and then they're having to replace people. So they're kind of starting from scratch again, and they can't really grow.
Gotcha. Very interesting. And yeah, certainly. I mean, worked with enough construction companies. I see that a lot of them eventually hit that point. And so I love what you're doing. Well, I think it's interesting that you started your business in 2021, which oddly enough, coming out of COVID is going down as a year that was really strong for people starting businesses.
Yeah.
Seems kind of crazy, um, but your time in this industry, of course, precedes that significantly. Are there any just fundamental changes or shifts you're seeing in the industry that seem to really be having an impact on businesses?
Oh, there are so many. I mean, we can talk about culture, and we can talk about technology, and we can talk about economic. I'm going to hit on some short-term stuff economically that I see, and then maybe some longer-term trends. Economically, what I see happening in the construction industry is the cycles since 2021 have been really intense. There have been some really up cycles and some really down cycles, depending on what geography you're in and what market sectors you're servicing. It's been very strange. So for 2021 in the construction industry, for a lot of our clients in the commercial space, it was gangbusters, best year ever. Layer in PPP, and they were killing it. They were like, "Oh my God, the best years on record." You got to take out PPP, but that's not your money.
Yeah.
But the 2023 saw such a dramatic reduction in new starts in multifamily, which was a sector that was really, really heavily carrying a lot of that growth. So if you were building multifamily and you were saying 21 and 22, these are best years ever, you're in 23, you took a step back. If you're doing data centers in 23, you were like, man, this is the greatest environment I've ever been in.
Right. Yep.
So it's really intense. It's been a very intense time with big ups and big downs and massive behavior changes inside companies who maybe got dramatically overstaffed during an uptime, hired way more people than they actually need, and are seeing that now really crush their bottom line and lots of layoffs. And man, it's or exactly the other way around, right? They were super lean, and now they're stretched to capacity, and they're totally overworked, and they're now at risk of overhiring and under profit. It's been a roller coaster. And the people that I'm seeing who are doing the best, here's a trend that I think is just worth taking note of. diversification. If you get your business from a nice mix of publicly funded projects, privately funded projects, projects in a few different geographies, projects of a few different sizes, and even inside the public or private sectors, having it divvied up amongst a couple of different buckets. If you're asking me for like the one thing the trend that I'm pushing with lots of our clients, and I have been for years, is get your money from lots of places. Make sure that you're not totally beholden to one aspect of the market, because it can get very dicey. So that's on the economic side. And then on the cultural side, one of the trends that I see, and I'm sure you guys do too, is, we have a major shift in demographic. There are a lot of people retiring. And when I look back at this, 15, 16 years I've been working in the construction industry in this capacity, I think about, the culture that changes as I'll call them old school with love, by the way, because I find that I am one of the oldest school people around anymore, and I'm pretty young to be old school. But I find myself saying things, and people look at me like, "All right, boomer," and I'm like, "Easy, does it?" But I'm just a young Gen Xer, darn it. But yeah, so the thing that I see is that a lot of things that we quote unquote used to do are going away, and some of those things, good riddance. I'm glad we're getting rid of some of that stuff. High pressure, super aggressive, yelling at each other, fighting openly, kind of things like that's going by the wayside. That's probably good. You know what else is going by the wayside? Picking up the freaking phone. And that sucks. That's not good, because we're not doing a good job of conveying what we really need from each other in these, GPT created emails that are, that are being sent over with no regard to how they're read or perceived. And, so I think we're losing something on the regard to interpersonal relationships with a cultural shift that I tend to be very into progress as defined as improving. I think progress as defined as just changing. I am anti this change. I think this is a really dumb thing that we're doing in migrating away from a focus on relationships. And so I do see that happening in the industry. And I'm telling you, Todd, like I could keep going on trends, because I'm a student of it, and I have all kinds of opinions, probably many of which I have no business having.
No, I think that's great information. And, I so relate to that thing about cycles have been so intense. And, I know we have seen that so much on the manufacturing side, from supply chain difficulties to worker shortage of workers, and just everything has been so intense. And, as far as communication and phones, yes. How many times has it happened in my team? Someone keeps saying, well, I just can't get a hold of them. Oh, well, what have you done? Well, I've emailed 3 times. I've texted twice. Oh, did you ever try calling them? And you're right.
Also you have legs and a car, and you could go to their office. You could drop by the trailer. Did you know they have a trailer?
Hey, this has been great. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about, you have a podcast called The Morning Huddle. And I was mentioning, I apologize, I have not spent any time with you yet, but I very much want to and will. But tell us a little bit about what you do in The Morning Huddle, and why our listeners should tune into it.
So we do 2 things with the Morning Huddle. There is our the Morning Huddle construction show, standard. We've been doing now for coming up on 3 years, and we've that is a platform for people who are creating positive change in the construction industry. We're bringing on people to talk about what they believe positive change looks like, and to share their stories, to have interesting arguments about whether those things are, as I just talked about, right? Like I'm progressive if progressive means better. I'm not progressive if progressive just means different, right? And so I really like fighting in public nicely with well-informed people who are passionate about what they do, and they usually win. That's the show. That's how that goes. And no, because I mean, look, and I'm very open to changing my perspective when people make a great case, and there are
Sure.
some awesome people who've been on who've helped me to shift my perspective. So in some ways, it's basically just my education.
Well, yeah, and that's what I love about our show too. Is I learn so much every episode. Love it.
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, if you're a lifelong learner, there's not many things I would recommend more than just taking time to interview somebody once a week, right, and get to know them. It's pretty cool. Stacy Holzinger is my co-host for that show. Stacy, she's also she's really the producer for that show, and she does an incredible job lining up all of our guests, and she's more plugged in to what's going on with trends in the industry than I am, and just always make sure that we have something interesting. The other thing that we do with that show is we have a long form discussion, and that's called the Well Built series, and that's between me and a team member at Well Built Construction Consulting named Matt Verderamo. And Matt is just brilliant and young and insightful and a real pain in the ass to argue with. And he and I just have long form, hour-long episodes where we talk about what we are passionate about, and it really gives me space. And Todd, I can see, you're playing the role I normally play, and I love playing this role. This is such a fun role. But that the discipline of not like taking over your own show and allowing the Well Built series is my outlet for saying what's on my mind, and Matt is there as a constant foil to my perspectives, and in a really, really healthy one. I mean, he's just it's worth checking out too. Both of them are a great use of time.
Well, and I have listened to a couple of the shows with Stacy, and but I want to dig further into them, and now I got to check out these with Matt too. So I will be checking those out on the Morning Huddle, and hopefully our listeners will as well.
morninghuddleconstructionshow.com, just because there's like a bunch of morning huddles, right? We call it the morninghuddleconstructionshow.com.
Very good. Well, I mean, I can tell from your enthusiasm that you truly love this industry. You truly are driven by helping others. When you look at construction in particular, what is it that you really love about construction industry in particular?
At its core, I think it's just probably the most honest way to make a living there is.
Oh, wow.
Is to trade your sweat and your expertise, and to leave something behind that is awesome, that somebody gives you money for. And I think that is, in my heart, it's just I wish I was good at that, because that's probably, I think I would sleep even better if that, but I'm getting the next best thing, which is helping those organizations to be great places to work, and creating a lot of financial freedom for the courageous entrepreneurs who, like my brother, who took the leap.
Oh, that's a great perspective. Love it. Any advice you have for young folks out there? Because we do think a lot of our audience are some younger folks fairly new to the industry. Any advice in particular for them in this industry?
I'll reiterate, pick up the phone, get out of your office. I will definitely capitalize on that, and just, throw a exclamation point after it. The other thing from an advice standpoint for those folks is don't. So here's an observation. I've found that the generation of incoming workers sees problems in the business, and they get disheartened by seeing those problems quickly, especially high potential people, people who are really smart and they have bright futures ahead of them, and they're working inside their business, and they're like, we don't do this, and we should be doing this, and this is stupid. And number one, they tend not to say that to the right person. And right. So they say that, but they say that to their colleagues. That's not the right person. And so that's number one. Number two, they view those things as intractable very quickly. Like they view those things as like, well, that's, and I just work and my company sucks. And this is, I think, what leads to a lot of job hopping. And it's and so here's my ask, my ask and my advice. I think we can help me help you help me, right? is bring those observations to your supervisors and bring them with a spirit of empathy and open-mindedness that not everything is bad here. And this thing that you're spotting that totally should be better, good catch, Junior. Please have some patience and help us to solve it. Don't just point out problems and be the victim.
Yeah.
And I think because if you do that, you're just going to keep doing that. There's nowhere that's perfect. And you've got to get on the side of making the place that you're working more perfect.
Yeah.
And then side note to that, if you find that the people that you're raising those things to are completely dismissive and they shut you down, quit and come work with one of my clients.
There you go. I love it. Well, and it's interesting. I was talking to a group of young up-and-comers in our company yesterday, and I said, the thing to get everyone to focus on is how do we take things up? How do we move up? And that's good advice. Bring solutions, not just problems. Well, Chad, this has been a great time together. Thank you so much for your insight and time. We're kind of close to wrapping up what we call the business end of things. Then we'll have a little more fun. But is there anything we haven't covered yet today that you'd like to be sure to share with our audience?
I hope on the business end of things, this is also fun. But I just released. So I finished writing my first book. It is coming out for publication on June 18th. And so my guess is it will have already come out as our audience. We're just a little before that right now as we're recording, but it will have already come out. It's called Well Built. So if you look up my name and you type in Chad Prinkey Well Built into Amazon, you'll see it. So the book is called Well Built: How the Top 2% of Construction Contractors Create Superior Value, Profits, and Excellence. And it's really about my journey with those special contractors that I've talked about who have really demonstrated a consistent theme and shown me how, not on purpose, right, but shown me how to hit on every single cylinder in your business. And so I define the top 2% as that 1 in 50 type of contractor that is just making way more money than you are. And right, and they're doing it while making customers happy and employees happy. And they're doing it in a way that's not totally reliant on a small handful of people, but because they've really built a machine that works. That's the top 2% that I'm talking about. And they exist. And if you're one of them, if you're not one of them, I'm here to tell you, you can literally like triple your net profits and grow at the same time. That's happening. I know trade contractors out there that are making 24% net profits. I know general contractors that are making 10, 12% net profits. I know that sounds insane, but it is possible. Now, it's not necessarily, the road you'll go down. Maybe success for you looks like 6%, and that's okay. But it is possible to do way more than what you're currently doing. And in this book, I really outline, here's all the cylinders you got to be hitting on. And maybe you read it and you go, I'm doing that and doing that and doing that. Oh, crap. I'm not doing that. That's my problem. And that's why I wrote it. That's why I wrote the book, is to really help people to find and self-diagnose and do effectively what we do. Like the construction industry is it's a contact sport. It is a very rough place to operate. It's a Thunderdome where people are, constantly in some version of battle. Designers and owners and generals and subs and suppliers and manufacturers, and everybody is fighting for their little scrap, their little piece in a cage match. It doesn't have to feel that way. And if you find that you feel like it is, you're getting beat up and bloodied and, that kind of stuff, you're doing it wrong, man. You're doing it wrong. There's a way to be like, wow, are you guys seeing the cage match that's going on over there? That's crazy. I'm glad I'm not in the cage match. I'm just over here making a bunch of money. Those guys look like they're getting hurt. And obviously that's, imagery for a reason. I want you to be thinking about, how do you extract yourself from that? And so anyway, that's the book. That's my business. That's the podcast. That's what we're all about, man.
Great. Well, I'm glad you threw that in about the book. I didn't realize that was in the works and is out there now, I'm sure, well built. So we'll check that out and encourage our listeners to as well. So before we do close out, here's where, the whole thing's been fun. Didn't mean that at all. But I would like to ask if you'd like to participate in our rapid fire questions. So rapid fire are 7 questions. Some may be serious, some may be silly. Chad has no clue what we're about to ask him. Are you up to the challenge of rapid fire?
I mean, I feel like I'm definitely, I'm cut out for this. I'm certain I'm cut out for this.
No doubt. No doubt. Okay, well, let's start asking. We will alternate. I will let you ask the first one, Ryan.
All right. Question number 1. If someone were to hire a musician to follow you around for a day and never stop playing, what instrument would you want them to be playing?
Guitar.
That sounds pleasant enough.
Yeah, they'd be playing guitar, and they'd be varying between. I would like them to have an acoustic electric, please, so that they have, and with the ability to do some distortion, like when good things are happening. I want like da 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 da. Yeah, it's like some like Metallica. And then switching over to some, Simon and Garfunkel.
Perfect.
Very timely moments.
Yeah.
Love it. So I have to tell you, that question was inspired. I heard that a group of high school seniors recently, as their senior prank, hired a bagpiper to follow their principal around for the day. The thing they didn't realize was their principal actually likes the bagpipes. So he's 1 in a million.
That's awesome. I love it. I like the bagpipes if I'm settling in to watch a little Braveheart, but that's about it.
There you go. Question number 2. What is a regular practice that you have that has made a profound positive impact on your life? Something that you just make sure you're doing regularly?
Calling people to say thank you.
Oh, love it.
I could list a whole bunch of other things in there, but I think for my mental and spiritual wellness, there's just nothing that makes a bigger impact than expressing gratitude to the people that I need people to know how they're positively helping me, how they're impacting me. I think and just that I think they're awesome people. I think we're all walking around needing a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Practicing gratitude will change your life.
Yeah, good stuff.
Question number 3. If you're trying to survive a zombie apocalypse, what one person do you want on your team?
My brother, Todd. Yeah, Todd. He's just a big, scary dude.
You can throw cement blocks at people if you need him to, I guess.
That's it. He's always been so he was my tormentor, but then totally had my back. First he beat me up, then he beat other people up for me.
Good stuff. Next question. What are you most grateful for?
Have to be most grateful for my family. And I have these 3 little boys that are just delightful in virtually every way. And I know that sounds obnoxious, but it's true. Like I find myself every day marveling at how sweet and smart and kind, also like adorably flawed they are. It's It's awesome. And I feel really fortunate to be in this, life shaping position called dad. It's a really cool job.
I hear you.
Very good. If you had to play a game of Pinochle every single day for the rest of your life, who would you choose to have on your team?
Pinochle is a game of you need to have a little craftiness. I'm going to take Clooney. I'm taking George Clooney. He's going to play Pinochle with me. That's he's a because I think he is capable of making people believe he has anything you want, anything he wants you to believe in his hand. That's why.
If you could only eat one food for the entire rest of your life, what food would you choose to eat?
Olives.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I would. Those the oil covered big fat Spanish suckers with the pits. Yeah, that's what I would take.
That's one thing I just cannot eat. My wife loves olives too, and we were just talking about it last night because we had a salad, and she's like, "Oh, this is missing olives," and my stepdaughter and I are like, "No, gross," but she loves them.
It's my go-to. Yeah, there's no doubt.
I don't get it, but all right.
It's between that and sardines, for the record.
Yeah. So my something that I could eat like that is onions. I love onion. I could eat an onion like an apple, and it drives my wife nuts. But
just no one would want to be around you. But
no. So I try not to make a habit out of it.
You don't pull it out of your lunchbox and just take a bite.
Maybe only once a year. All right, this is the last question. Have you recently purchased a product or service that was kind of a real game changer for you? Something that made you think, where have you been all my life?
Oh man, I love that question. I know the answer. You know what? For our business, we purchased a project management and time tracking software that has been something that we've been doing with spreadsheets and old school, right? And using this software has provided such immense structure and insights. And I have to say that the team is just unbelievable at keeping it fully up to date. We've got this group of 8 people who don't complain about logging every minute every day, which I think is a weird thing. I don't think that that's a normal state of affairs, but because of it, the amount of insights we have into our business and where we need to hire and all that kind of stuff, it has been a game changer. Yeah, it really has been.
Well, we can give them a shout out. What is that software?
It's called Teamwork.
Okay. Great name.
It's called Teamwork. It's mostly set up for professional services firms, so it would work really well for a general contractor, but not for a trade contractor. And it does work well for developers. I know developers who do use it.
Very good. Well, thank you again, Chad. This has been a pleasure. We will put the information in the show notes, but for folks who want to get in touch with you, how can they most easily do that?
LinkedIn is probably the best spot for me. So Chad Prinkey, Prinkey on LinkedIn. I post a lot of content. I was going to say good content, but that's totally subjective. Everybody's up on that. I post a lot of my opinions, so there's that. And so I'm very active there. You can feel free to shoot me a direct message. I really do keep up with those at least weekly, and that's a great place to reach out. And then you should definitely come to our company website, wellbuiltconsulting.com. And and then lastly, one of the biggest things we rolled out a newsletter. Newsletters actually I write. Matt writes, John Livingston on our team writes, and there are these 3 different perspectives. John is in the final third of his career, and he's been there, done that in every aspect, and his stuff is really, really insightful for that veteran who wants to give back to the industry. And Matt, as I've described, is this up and coming. He's in the newer generation, and I'm smack in the middle. And as you read these 3 different newsletters, I've had so many people who say, so go to our website, check out our newsletters. That would be a place that if you thought this was interesting, that you could definitely dive into more of mine and our team's musings and get cool ideas for your business.
Fantastic. And that was wellbuiltconsulting.com, correct?
Thank you. Yeah, that's right, Todd.
Very good. I am pleased to say that we all met our challenge of the challenge words. Ryan, your word was?
Pinochle.
You worked it in quite extensively there. That was good. Chad, your word was?
Thunderdome.
And I think we gave you a whole new shtick to help explain what you do. You had a great story and great imagery you created.
I was, as soon as I got my word, I had like this whole flow chart that I started drawing. I was ready to go.
That was incredible. And I had sour apple, except I pluralized it. So I had sour apples, but that was fun. Well, thank you again, Chad. This has been a real pleasure. And thank you to our audience for tuning into this episode of Construction Disruption with Chad Prinkey of Well-Built Construction Consulting and the Morning Huddle podcast. So we invite you, please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We're always blessed with fantastic guests. Don't forget to leave a review for us, please. And until the next time we're together, keep on challenging, keep on looking for better ways of doing things, and keep on having a positive impact on those in your life. There are simple things that we can do that really change the world for someone else. So God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.